If you were to describe your life in a word, what would it be? Busy, mundane, exciting, stressful, happy? Would that word change if you could carve out some space in your day for the things that give you joy and feed your soul? My guest says it has to happen, and she's going to help you make it happen. The Fringe Hours is about making time for you. The author is well known to many already. Jessica Turner is the founder of the popular lifestyle blog, The Mom Creative, where she documents her pursuit of cultivating a life well crafted. She's a writer for Dayspring's Encourage community and lives with her husband and children in Nashville. But one baby is here with us, Jessica.
Hey there.
Very new.
Very new, 8 weeks. Yep, New Year's Eve baby.
Oh, and there he is in the picture.
Yeah.
And he is sleeping so sweetly in our green room right now.
I wish he slept last night.
Oh, bless your heart. Tell us the names of those children. Just bring them back up again, guys.
Elias is our 6-year-old, and Adeline is our 3-year-old. She's our spirited little firecracker, and then Ezra rounds out the bunch.
So sweet. You are in the trenches.
Yes, I am. And I work full time. Not while I'm on maternity leave right now, but normally I work full time outside the home, and then have 3 little ones, and then the blog, The Mom Creative, and then I wrote the Fringe Hours literally in my Fringe Hours. I was writing it when I was pregnant, so only had 2 at home at the time.
Define Fringe Hours.
So Fringe Hours are those pockets of time that often go underused or wasted altogether. So early mornings, times of waiting, those little pockets here and there that we can find that, you know, we're scrolling on Facebook when really we could be doing something for ourselves. And I chose the phrase Fringe Hours because fringe is not only on the periphery, but it makes things beautiful. And I found that when I was making time for myself, that I was happier and that my life was more beautiful. And that's really the heart of what the Fringe Hours is all about.
You know, have you heard of Tim Hortons?
Yes.
Here in Canada, it's a really big deal.
Yes, I already have been, so.
Okay.
Yes.
You're in. It was in a Tim Hortons that I met a woman. I was on the Fringe. I was frayed with 2 little ones, and I met a woman who'd made a choice to work from home. And the phrase she used has stayed with me because at the moment it defined where I was. She said, I was constantly juggling and always on edge. Yeah. And I think for many mothers, whether they're working outside the home or not, that can be how they see themselves.
Yeah, it is very hard. And with doing all those things, the question that I was asked all the time was, how do you do it all? How do you do it all? And really people weren't trying to figure out how did I work or how did I blog, but how was I finding time for the things I was blogging about? The fun parties and the scrapbooking and the things that were really bringing me joy. And I was at a blogging conference and the phrase Fringe Hours just struck me. And it literally felt like God was saying, this is a message that I have given you uniquely that you have to share. And so writing the Fringe Hours really was an act of obedience for me because with working full time and being a mom and having the blog, I mean, literally all of my Fringe Hours went to the book. And I did a survey and surveyed 2,000 women and found out how they were spending their time and what they were passionate about and got so much from that and heard from so many women like the woman you described who they felt guilty and they felt like they shouldn't take time for themselves and they struggle with balance and they struggle with comparison. And so I added all of that into the book as well. And so I really think, you know, this is a message that we women need to hear, that it is so important that we practice self-care.
Yeah, this is your story and it is really a research project.
Right.
Other women's stories. You don't like the word balance.
I don't. You know, I think it's really hard. And balance is how I start the book. And it was the hardest chapter for me to write because I do think it's something that is just sort of out there. It's very hard to actually get balance. But what I like about balance is the idea of having some sort of sweet spot where we're happy, right? Where things kind of feel like they're in sync. And I think that's really what we're striving for. And in the book, I have an equation where I talk about balance and I talk about the definitions of balance, how there's not only a organization in your schedule, right? That balance that we think about, but it's also in your emotions and how you feel. And I think so often we look at the calendar and it feels like everything's balanced, but we don't take into account how we're feeling about that schedule. And so consequently, it's really not in balance.
Many wonderful quotes, something I love. Here's one of them. Women need real moments of solitude and self-reflection to balance out how much of ourselves we give away.
Absolutely.
Something popped into my mind as I read that. At my 40th, my husband took me to see the musical Showboat. There's not a lot of pathos in Showboat. It's just a fun musical.
Right.
When it was over, I went into the ladies' washroom and bawled my eyes out. And I thought, what is my problem? My problem was that I had two very dependent little people at home, a brand new baby and a toddler, and I felt like a robot, and I was not doing anything to nurture me. I love musicals.
Right.
And it was really something got tapped that had been left in the back room somewhere.
Right. God didn't just create us to be mothers. He didn't just create us for our jobs. He didn't just create us to be wives. He created us uniquely ourselves, right? And so we can't let that atrophy and not make time for the passions that he birthed within us. And I think too often we do that. And we're really doing a disservice to who we were called and created to be, I think.
How often do you find a false motivator in guilt and comparison? With moms especially.
Absolutely. And I think Pinterest and social media take it to a whole new level. We think that we should be, you know, cooking a certain meal because we see somebody else doing that, or taking our kids somewhere because we see somebody else making time for that. And we have this comparison that eats at us. And instead of having celebration and joy and doing things that make sense for us uniquely, we're doing things based on what we think everybody else wants, when really no one else cares. Nobody else is judging if you have pizza.
Who are we
for
trying
dinner.
to please?
Exactly, exactly.
Did you have to give up things that might normally be on the schedule to enjoy those things that refuel and reboot you?
Absolutely. You know, I think I have become very comfortable with good enough, being good enough, you know, that I will let the dust bunnies sit and, you know, make time for myself then, or I won't do all the dishes and have the kitchen sparkling maybe one night so that I can take some time to craft and do things that refuel me in that way, because I know that when I'm taking that time that I'm a better wife, I'm a better mom, I'm a better coworker, and I'm happier. And I think that is what matters. And particularly for myself as a mom, I want my kids to remember a mom who was happy and a mom who took that time, so that when they grow up, they take time for themselves, they practice self-care. I don't want them remembering a mom who was really stressed out because she had laundry to do, and I spent all my time doing those chores and those activities and didn't take care of myself.
You don't want to model frenetic activity.
Right.
Stressed mom. I loved the question. Let me just quote you exactly. What favorite things did you do as a child? Name one of them, and how did it make you feel?
Yeah. So many women that I talked to in the survey, they said that they couldn't identify their passions because it had been so long since they invested in themselves. And so I talk about looking back on your childhood. For me, it was reading books. I read a book a day. I remember my mom bringing home boxes of books from garage sales that she bought for 25 cents a piece just to keep up with me reading. And that still is true for me today. And if I am not taking time to read, my husband will say to me, baby, go read a book. Yeah. Just go take a couple hours and read a book. And so I think looking back at what we were passionate with in our childhoods is a great way to figure out what we'd be passionate about today.
Well, I have a picture too. I'm glad I was able to find it. My brother is on the left and I'm on the right. For some reason, it's my brother who crashed with the stroller, the baby stroller, the doll stroller. But we are lying on the grass looking up at the clouds, trying to define what we see in the clouds. And for me, this is all about reflection. Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. Mm-hmm. If we're just going like the ever-ready bunny, mm-hmm. we're going to miss a lot of what God has for us, because we can't possibly be listening to him. We can't be getting the course correction. We can't, I mean, the word recreation literally means to be recreated.
Right.
All of these things
intentional.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think taking those photos and hanging them up, I just found this photo of me reading and I'm holding my American Girl doll on my lap, and I just want to frame that in my house because that so perfectly captures what I love to do, just like that photo for you. Having that memory, I think, is a good reminder for ourselves to go back to that childhood joy and have that still today.
So what would you say is a first step for that mom who actually found time to join us here today, and we're so glad that you did? but she can already hear the crying in the background, and life is there with all its demands.
Yes.
Where's a starting place?
I think there's two starting places. If you have no idea where Fringe hours could possibly be in your day, I encourage women to track their time for a week, just like we do with exercise or we do with food if we're trying to lose weight, where you track everything that you're doing over the course of a week. You track the laundry, the carpool line, everything in 15-minute increments. And you can really see after doing that for a week where your time is going and maybe where you can streamline, where you can say no. Maybe it's waking up earlier in the morning before the kids wake up. I know for myself, if I take that time at the beginning of the day to have quiet time, to do some writing. I have scrapbooked at 5 in the morning, just doing things that I love to start the day before the calls and the cries, that then I've invested in myself and can invest in those littles a lot better and a lot more joyfully. And so those would be two places that I would start. Track your time and maybe try waking up even 15 minutes early just to have some time for yourself.
Does it help to be accountable with another woman, another mom maybe?
Yeah, I think it helps to be accountable with somebody, whether that's another mom or it's a spouse. You know, like my husband saying to me, go and read a book. You need time for yourself, saying, hey, this is something that's important to me, not something that I'm doing great right now. Can you help me be accountable? I think accountability is always a great thing.
Now, really, you have done a lot of the groundwork for us. And I haven't told you that you're not going to get through a chapter of this book without blank lines. You're going to respond, answer. And I think that helps us to see, just as you've said, okay, I hate to use the word balance, but where are we?
Out of balance,
Out of balance.
Right, absolutely. The Fringe Hours is not a book about doing more. It's not a time management book. It's a book about being more. It's about being more fulfilled, more creative. And those questions and lines in there are just another exercise that as you're reading and processing and digesting that you might take time to do. Some women have told me that they've read the whole book and then they've gone back and done those questions. They might not be for everybody, but they're there to help you be intentional and to think about how this story relates to your own life.
Thank you for caring about women,
Oh,
that they would live
joy.
fully in their lives.
It's a joy.
And hopefully get off the treadmill.
Yes.
Jessica Turner, The Fringe Hours, making time for you. I hope you've been encouraged. And the workbook, may I call it that?
You may.
The workbook to get you there. The friend to help you there.
Yes.
God bless you in your fresh adventure
Thank
in
you
new
so
motherhood.
much. Thank you. It's a pleasure.